Good morning, Queensland. It's positive news today to report that we have 0 local community cases in Queensland. We have 6 overseas acquired cases. One of those is overseas acquired in hotel quarantine. We have another 5 that are on a ship, a bulk carrier, off the west of Cape York. So we're managing that at the moment, and Dr. Young will have a bit more to say about that shortly. But wonderful news to have 0 community cases again. This means we are at 31 active cases. Great news in relation to our vaccinations, 14,998 tests, should I say, overnight. So almost 15,000 people coming out and getting tested. Thank you so much. The message is clear, no matter where you are in Queensland, if you have any symptoms whatsoever, please come and get tested. And our vaccination rates, we did 20,559 vaccines yesterday in Queensland Health. And over the entire state, across Queensland Health, our GPs and our community pharmacies, we have now delivered over 5 million doses. So that is wonderful, but of course we want those numbers to keep going up. So today we have 68.26% of the Queensland eligible population have had their first dose and 49.53% second dose. So we are so close to that 50% mark being fully vaccinated. So keep up the great work, Queenslanders. Keep coming out and getting tested and of course getting vaccinated. That is the key to keeping us all safe. Now this weekend we are expecting a very big Supervax weekend, because everyone who came out in their thousands 3 weeks ago are all due for their second dose. So we know that you need to have your second dose, and 2 weeks after that you get that full protection. So it's so important that if you haven't booked in for this weekend, you can still walk in and get your second jab, and of course you can turn up for your first jab as well. Now, to help those communities that have lower vaccination rates, we are standing up 19 high schools. So these are your local high school across 19 areas where we've had lower vaccination rates, where you'll be able to walk in on the weekend and get a vaccination. So particularly, can I put a shout out to those schools' communities, your students, the parents, the grandparents, the siblings of those students at those schools. Here's the chance. Pop in to your local high school and get that vaccination this weekend. You can find those 19 high schools up on our website. It'll have the hours and the days. Most of them will be open Saturday and Sunday, but have a look at what hours. And here in Mackay, we'll have the Mackay Northern Beaches High School, which will be open on Saturday for vaccinations, as well as, of course, the showgrounds and local community pharmacies and GPs. Now, I also want to mention home quarantining. So we have now moved to trialling home quarantine for returning Queenslanders. Now, this will commence from the 11th of October, next week. We've already started reaching out to Queenslanders stuck interstate who have already applied to return to Queensland. So it doesn't apply to someone who today jumps on a plane and goes down south. These are people who are already stuck in New South Wales and Victoria and the ACT. We are reaching out to them and asking if they meet a certain criteria, then we will invite up to 1,000 people to be able to home quarantine instead of hotel quarantine from the 11th of October. Now, the key criteria that must be met: you must have had at least 2 weeks past since your second vaccination. So if you are stuck interstate and haven't been vaccinated yet, hurry up and get vaccinated if you want the opportunity to home quarantine going forward. You must have had 2 doses. It must be 2 weeks since you've had your second dose. You also must reside within 2 hours of the Brisbane airport. If you can't reside alone, then the whole household will need to quarantine. You will be bound by the testing and home quarantine check-in system that we have put in place. So these are the requirements that you will have to meet to be eligible to home quarantine. Also, you must have had a negative test within 72 hours before you travel. So, vaccinate, negative test, reside within 2 hours of Brisbane Airport, and be able to quarantine alone or have the whole household quarantine are the key criteria to becoming eligible. We will reevaluate this in a couple of weeks to see the success. Now, if people are found to be in breach, then they can be fined and they can be told they must go into hotel quarantine and have to pay the cost of that hotel quarantine. Now, why are we here in Mackay? Well, Mackay is one of those towns where we are seeing lower vaccination rates. We don't want to see any town in Queensland left behind, because when this virus comes to our communities, and it will come, we cannot have towns like Mackay become ground zero for the virus. It will be your local hospitals that have to deal with all those positive cases. It will be your schools that will have the outbreak across the students. It will be your industries, the resource and the tourism sector, that will be impacted by their staff who are sick and having to go into hospital or quarantining. So please come out and get vaccinated. This is as real as it gets. New South Wales has had over 60,000 cases in 3 months from one person on the 16th of June. 60,000 cases. That is half of the population of Mackay. Half of Mackay's population in just 3 months from one case in New South Wales. And sadly, they have reported over 351 deaths. We don't want to see that happen in towns like Mackay, Rockhampton or Mount Isa, or our remote Indigenous communities, or areas like Ipswich or Logan or Beaudesert. We need everyone stepping up and getting vaccinated because we want everyone to be as safe as possible to protect you, to protect your loved ones, your work colleagues, your community, and to also help our health workers who are going to have to manage all of these positive cases when this virus does come. Now I hand over to Dr. Young to just give an update on these positive cases on this bulk carrier. We'll also hear from Julianne Gilbert, our local member, and I'm pleased to say the Mayor's joined us as well today, so I will also hear from the Mayor here in Mackay. Thank you.